Hello, BookTube, and welcome to another weekly reading vlog. And these are the books I've been working on this week, so let's jump into it. I have finished children's stories from old British and Irish legends, and I filmed a video review of it, which I'll link to in the description down below, but I'm all done with this book now. So with that book out of the way, it opened up a new slot on my reading list, and I decided to finally get around to reading Wolf Hall. I feel like I'm the last one to the party on this one, but better late than never. I've filmed a video on this already, a started video, and I'm now 32 pages into it, and am happy to report that I'm finding it very enjoyable so far. I was a little bit worried that it would... everyone was talking about how well it was written, and I thought, oh, geez, is this going to be one of those books that everybody else likes but I don't like Toni Morrison or Mary Renault. But I'm finding it very well written. The only thing is I was looking up Steve Donahue's 2009 printed review of this from his old blog or his old website. And Steve mentions that if the style has one flaw, it's the overuse of he. So Cromwell is always referred to in the third person as he, but the other characters he's talking to are sometimes referred to as he as well. So sometimes it's a little bit difficult to tell which he is it or which he is referring to. And I read that this afternoon and then read a few more pages of this book. And yeah, I'm finding that exactly, that sometimes the overuse of pronouns makes it a little bit difficult to discover who is who. But Steve said in his review that it's one of those things that gets better as you keep reading. So fingers crossed. It's not derailed the reading experience yet, not by any means. I'm still enjoying this. But I do find I have to read some paragraphs carefully, and sometimes even go back and read some paragraphs again to figure out, okay, what exactly is going on here. But yeah, I've got a good feeling about this. I think this is going to be hopefully as good as everyone says. And so far it seems like it will be. So yeah. Then I finished Journey to the West Volume 3 last week. So I got out of my library Journey to the West Volume 4. So this is the final volume here. And I read from the beginning of this volume, which is, it starts on page 1761. Now, it starts on page 1761 because those page numbers are continued from the previous volumes. But then there was a little odd thing. I got to page 1814 on chapter 79. Let's see. Is this going to show up on camera? Not really, huh? Okay, just take my word for it. And then the very next page is chapter 1847 on chapter 80. So there's about 30 pages missing with the end of chapter 79 and the beginning of chapter 80. And I thought, oh, geez, what is this? I mean, here I am, 1,814 pages into this. I've made somewhat of a commitment to this book, and then there's half of 2 chapters missing. So I went and tried to track this down, and the book was written in the 16th century, so it's in the public domain. But the translation is not always in the public domain, because a lot of the translations that have been done in the last 50 years, and I don't know how much this book has been translated, but I would guess that unabridged translations of a book this long can probably be counted on your hands, maybe. I don't know. Project Gutenberg did not have a copy of this book, at least not in English. They had a copy of the Chinese one. That doesn't do me any good. And unless I missed something, I couldn't find it. But the Internet Archive had a copy. So because I've made a commitment to this book at this point, I made a point of getting the PDF from the Internet Archive. Now, this is not the same translation, different translator, but found out exactly where I was missing, and then printed out the missing pages here. So this is, the page numbers here are different, and you can see these pages are a little bit longer than this book. So this is page 1038. And it goes to 1056 here. So I actually did find the missing chapter and then was able to come back here. I Googled because I thought I'm not sure how well this shows up on camera, but again, if it's not evident, you just take my word for it. It's not. There's no pages missing, like nobody tore out any pages, like all the pages that were in the binding are here. It just looks like when they ran this book off the printers, they just missed 30 pages. And I was thinking, I don't really know anything about how mass printing works or anything, but I was thinking that, well, if it's a mistake like that, then it's probably going to be in multiple volumes, right? It's not just this one volume. It would be like the whole run would have that mistake in it. So I Googled Journey to the West, Volume 4 Missing Pages, to try and see what was going on. And didn't find actually anybody on the internet saying they were missing exactly the same pages. But a number of different people on Amazon reported missing pages in this edition. And this is the edition published by Foreign Languages Press, Beijing. So somebody said that like half of their pages in volume 1 were blank. Somebody said there were some blank pages in a different volume. I don't remember. And it looks like there have been different runs of this book, depending on what imprint it is. But yeah, I guess something to be careful about if you're getting the edition from Foreign Languages Press, Beijing. It may be missing pages. But if it is, you can find those missing pages on the Internet Archive. It was interesting switching translation for these pages. The names of everyone changed. So instead of the monk, they call him... What did they call him? Sorry. Oh, okay, let me back up. The monkey is not referred to as the monkey. He's referred to as the pilgrim. The pig is called 8 Rules. The monk is Tripitaka, which I guess is his name. Friar Sand is called Friar Sand in my book, is called Sha Monk. But you know, it's pretty obvious from the context who everyone is, and you know, once you figure it out, then it reads. This translation reads smoothly as well. So, anyways, this particular week I finished off chapter 77. Now, chapter 77 is continuing the same storyline that was in volume 3, where they're fighting the 3 demons of the mountain. And this ends with Monkey summoning Buddha down. Buddha helping to subdue the demons. And then the rock, who's some sort of demon bird, is forcefully made into a pet of Buddha, like Buddha disables his wings. So again, it's yet another case where the demons are converted and become servants of the Buddhist deities instead of killed. And then chapter 78, they go into another country. So they're always going into different countries and figuring out what's wrong with this country. In this country, all the boys are locked up in cages because the king is under the influence of a Taoist priest, and the Taoist priest has given his daughter to the king to marry, and he's got this beautiful daughter which has completely enraptured the king, so much so that the king is ignoring his other wives. And the Taoist has him in his power. He's getting the king to manufacture some sort of long life potion which involves cutting out the hearts of like 1,000 boys. So all the boys in this town are in cages where they're waiting to be murdered until there's thousands of them. Once Monkey and Pig and the monk and the whole gang find out this, then they decide that they have to stop this. So the monkey rescues all the boys, and then he disguises. Yeah, there's another little plot point where the Taoist elder realizes when they realize who this monk is, and this is the monk with the pure flesh, that if you eat it will grant you immortality. He and the king conspire to eat the monk's flesh, and the monkey disguises himself as the monk and goes in his place. And then once he reveals himself, there's a big fight. And then this is another fight where it turns out that the demon is actually an escaped pet of another deity. This time it's the Star of Longevity. Actually, in this translation is actually... Sorry, I've got jumping back and forth between translations. Actually, the name's not important, is it? It's a star of longevity, one of the stars who comes down and says, "This is my escaped pet," and he takes the pet back with him. And the pet, the Taoist priest, turns out to be like a deer. Who escaped and turned himself into a demon. And the daughter, the beautiful daughter who so enraptured the queen, turns out to be a fox demon. Now the fox demon gets killed by the monkey and the pig, which is another, as it's portrayed, seems to be a little bit brutal. Like she's trying to escape and they just whack her dead. But yeah. This book can be a little bit callous towards demons, like I said before. And then I'm in the middle of, I think, chapter 80 and 81. They're traveling through the forest. They meet a demon who's disguising herself as a young girl calling for help. The monkey realizes right away that it's a demon in disguise, but he cannot convince the monk that it's really a demon and not a human calling for help. So I think this is the third time this particular plot point has popped up again, where a demon disguises themselves as a young boy or girl. The monkey tries to convince the monk that it's actually a demon, but the monk refuses to believe. At least 3 times. It might have been 4, but at least 3 times I remember this before. Sorry. I mean to say this is the 3rd time. So it's popped up at least twice before that I can remember. Possibly another time, I'm not sure. And then they stay at a monastery where there's some sort of demon in the monastery that's eating the monks, which turns out to be the demon that they brought with them, who abducts the monk once that monkey discovers she's a demon. And that's as far as I am right now, right in the middle of chapter 81. So I'll continue on with that and then try and next week tell you how that episode ended. Uh, How to Teach for Exams. This I'm reading for professional development, and I made very little progress on this. So, yeah, I just read 6 pages from 96 to 102. I hope to make a little bit more progress on it this week, but this book is on the back burner for me. It's something I started as a project for work, and is now I'm done with that project. So I'm just finishing the book at this point to finish it, and have about 50 pages left, so it should be worth finishing. And then the big one, Marvel Horror Lives Again. So I was at page 894 last week, and I've read up to page 1004. So a little over 100 pages. So I finished up the War is Hell story arc, which is about a dead soldier who keeps getting reincarnated as other dead soldiers during World War II. And then that comic must have been canceled, because the character next appears in Man-Thing. And by the way, I looked this up on Wikipedia, and Wikipedia essentially says the same thing, that this ended after issue 10, I think it was, or whatever issue this was. And then the character pops up in a couple issues of Man-Thing. Now, Man-Thing I don't know anything about. It seems to me to be very similar to the DC character Swamp Thing, who I also don't know anything about, or don't know much about. But the Man-Thing lives in a swamp and seems to have some sort of special powers. So there's 2 issues of Man-Thing. And then the character appears one more time in the issue with the Scarlet Witch. And then that's the end of that arc. And the next character, that's the end of that character. And the next character in this collection, and getting near the end of this collection now, one I think this is the second to the last one, is Ulysses Bloodstone, who I'm still kind of in the first issue of, but it's some kind of guy with a gem in his chest who fights monsters. Yeah, so far it's kind of interesting. And that's my reading for this week. So there we go. I will see you next week, BookTube. Have a great week.